It's the Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. We got our third match of the day coming up, and that is our feature match of the day. We got BoarControl versus SilverName. That's coming up in this one, and I am excited because this is also our featured deck for the day as well.
Yeah, a nice little clash of the two, as we do have BoarControl on that Hunter. A very interesting take on the specialist format, contrary to the rogues, mages, and warriors that we see from most players, trying to go for a fatigue strategy against warriors and have a little bit of heal in there against the rogues as well. But overall, I think it's a bold strategy and a very classic BoarControl move, just very stats-oriented. The stats say it's good, so he brings it.
Indeed, that is a very BoarControl thing that's here. But as I said, we are in Grandmasters right now for Hearthstone, the European region. This is our inaugural season and our inaugural day. And if you're wondering what Grandmasters is, take a look. It's the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific regions. We have 16 players for each of those regions, the best of the best that are competing in an 8-week-long season here as they move into those playoffs. And so day in and day out, as those weekends approach, we're going to see them tackle this format as we use Specialist for it. And not the conquest of the last hero standing that we remember from the days of yore, but the best of the best have to tackle it, and that means metagames are going to start and develop through and through.
Yeah, as we heard from Tice, he already predicts that there'll be a lot more mage going forward. But to take a look at Specialist and the kinds of strategies that are involved in that, you are only bringing 3 decks to this format, all of which are of the same class, and they have to share 25 of the same cards. Those 5 cards that you can swap out between your secondary and tertiary deck is really where you have to prepare to counter your opponent's strategies as you play a best of 3, switching between those decks as you wish in between games.
Indeed. I think it's one of the most important things about any format is the ability to adapt on the fly. You know, like when, for instance, I'm playing on ladder and I'm queuing in a bunch of warriors, I go and I change my deck a little bit. I put in a couple cards that are going to be strong against what I'm facing. That's effectively the way that Specialist operates. You just have to anticipate that ahead of time. You can't just go and change it because you feel like it.
Right, it's the kind of a microcosm of ladder, just with a little twist of strategy, I would say, added in, that you can't substitute any deck, any cards that you want to on the fly. You have to have 3 decks, your primary, secondary, and tertiary, and you have to prepare in advance for what you anticipate to see, which is what I think has actually unilaterally been done pretty well by a lot of these players, as they've all predicted they need an anti-warrior list, an anti-rogue list, and an anti-mage list, which is the 3 most popular decks by a wide margin.
Indeed it is. And as I said, this is our featured match of the day, the match of the day here for BoarControl and SilverName. So let's get to know these 2 players a little bit better.
I'm George Webb, known as BoarControl in-game. My tag's on Twitter. Wait. I've never seen anyone plug like this. I've seen people say, hi, I'm X. No one ever says, this is my Twitter tag. It seems weird, right? Normally, like underneath, they show the Twitter tag, right? BoarControl, put it here, we're sorted. Yeah, they can just cut it there. To me, being a Grandmaster is validation of all the work I put in last year in terms of going to all the tour stops, collecting all the points, and it's a platform for which I can grow my brand, my stream, and do well as a player. So I don't know too much about SilverName. I have seen him streaming. Obviously, he's got a very big stream, and competing in events. He has won some tournaments, qualified for playoffs. So yeah, definitely a good player, but he's not one of the top points earners. Definitely someone I'm looking to do well against in this tournament. So while playing Hearthstone, I have multiple goals. There's streaming, content creation, there's playing. So my goals are, of course, to grow the stream this year. I've been doing that a lot recently. It's been going quite well. And of course, in Grandmasters, I want to do well. It's a new format, best of 3, so it's going to be more difficult to get an edge, but I'll try my best to find that edge and do as well as I can in the tournament.
Меня зовут Владислав, мой никнейм SilverName, и моя страница на Твиче SilverName. Обычный день, я встаю, иду есть, одновременно включаю компьютер, сажусь, настраиваю стрим, выключаю стрим, делаю какие-то технические вещи, иногда в voice-чате с кем-то разговариваю, потом иду спать. Так каждый день. И факт. Наверное, то, что я очень зависим от игр, как бы и так это все знают, но они просто, наверное, не подозревают, в каких масштабах вообще это, сколько это серьезно. Это уже даже не зависимость, это жизнь виртуальная. Уникальный стиль игры. Наверное, какие-то контроль-колоды, самая моя любимая контроль-колода, контроль-воин, об этом все знают. Наверное, самая сильная черта игры в контроле. Быть грандмастером для меня, наверное, показывать хорошую игру. Ну, наверное, самое, чего не хотелось бы, это, скорее всего, вылететь из этой лиги, потому что это самое обидное будет. Для того, чтобы это случилось, это должно крайне не повезти. И кому-то 16 игроков явно не повезет. И не хотелось бы оказаться на их месте.
That's right. SilverName mentioned relegation in that one, and this means that first week is setting the tone for that. You do not want to be in the position to be relegated from this, because that means you lost a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the players we've already seen lose so far, like Viper in particular, will be pretty sad having taken an 0-2 loss already today. And it's an interesting to get to see those videos there from both of the players. I think it demonstrates well the kind of the position they're both in their Hearthstone careers, where BoarControl had a pretty strong year competitively last year, doing very well in the tour stops, one of the highest point earners full stop last year. But building up his stream is really where his focus is at the moment, just trying to get a more stronger spot in the community.
And building up that edge by building up some decks. So we featured his deck a little bit earlier, but let's go ahead and take a look at it and delve a little bit deeper into the strategy that BoarControl is going to be using in his matchup versus SilverName. He's chosen to bring Hunter to the table here, and we talked about the three major players that were there: the mage, the rogue, the warrior, and how you defeat them. I feel like the Hunter deck here has capability of defeating all three of them on some fronts.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. That's the point, the theory behind the deck, is that it has the ability to seize board control against rogues in the form of, as you see there, Rat Trap, one of the key cards that shuts down all their powerful combo turns, in addition to Spring Pour, Unleash the Hounds, Timberwolf, all those strong combo cards. And then against the Warriors, you want to play your Dire Frenzies, obviously Unleash the Beasts and Zul'jin as very powerful value cards to just make sure you're constantly churning out threats.
Yeah, and the Dire Frenzy as well, to load up, say, like a Vicious Scalehide, and then use Master's Call to fetch one of those 4/6 Vicious Scalehides and keep your health topped off against some of the aggressive matchups. I think it's quite clever, and I've actually struggled a lot when I've run into that on ladder. But let's go ahead and take a look at SilverName's deck and see what he has in store. He mentioned that Control Warrior not only was his favorite deck, but perhaps the strongest part of his game in his mind. And he's brought here Bomb Warrior, but with a little bit of that control twist thrown in here with the Archivist Elysiana and the Baleful Banker.
Yeah, this is an interesting primary deck to be seeing. We've seen a few other players substitute in Elysiana and Baleful Banker in their secondary or tertiary deck to fight back in the mirror. But up against BoarControl, I get the feeling that this list might be a little bit too passive. Doing stuff like Archivist Elysiana and Baleful Banker, BoarControl will also be shuffling a huge amount of cards into his deck in the form of the Dire Frenzy, but it'll be more proactive way of doing that, developing threats at the same time, which I think is what SilverName needs to be afraid of here, is just falling behind on board.
Also, one copy of Shield Block. That feels like, to me, that 2 copies of Shield Block is core to Warrior strategies. I feel like cutting a copy of Shield Block is sometimes you're just asking to get punched in the face really hard and lose some games there.
I think the last time we saw Shield Block being cut was in the Odd Warrior days, but even then, that was pretty scarce to be seeing that gone from that list.
Yeah, it was just, it's such a good card.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's see how it works out for him. He will obviously have the ability to switch after the first game in Specialist format to one of his other 2 decks to try and counter Boar's strategy.
Here we are in game number 1. Boar has found Zul'jin in the opening hand. Unleash the Hounds, quite a dead card, but that's a lot of the nature of the matchup that's in this one. As we apologize for the spectator issue that we have here. We'll get this fixed as quickly as we can. The opening hand for BoarControl here with Deadly Shot and Zul'jin in it. This is the makings of a key opening hand here for BoarControl.
I agree.
Where the Zul'jin just replaying lots of, random value cards is very good.
Yeah, I think playing the Zul'jin fairly early can actually be pretty good, because obviously you can wait until you've played your entire deck, and then you get every single spell cast throughout the game on the Zul'jin. But there's some cards that you don't want to have casted before you cast Zul'jin, like, for example, Tracking. A lot of the time that just sifts through all the cards you shuffle in to counteract the fatigue strategies from Warrior. So I think an early tempo Zul'jin that still gets you a good amount of value is something that BoarControl could very much be looking towards doing in this game.
Yeah, and again, we apologize for the spectator issues here. We are working on getting them fixed promptly as we roll into this match. So kind of talking about the BoarControl list here, I think one of the biggest facets of beating Warrior in terms of value game is Unleash the Beast with Zul'jin in there. If you do not have Unleash the Beast by that time, but say you're holding on to Tracking, because I agree, you typically do not want to use Tracking prior to Zul'jin. in that manner. Is that something that you have to consider at that point, or do you feel like you're able to wait? I mean, we're talking about facing against Bomb Warrior here.
Yeah, it's not a deck that just sits there doing nothing for the whole game and lets you execute your perfect game plan. They will start to develop some of their own threats in the form of, as we saw in the previous games, the Clockwork Goblins and the Omega Devastators. But I think for BoarControl, there's enough removal in the Hunter deck to be able to fight back against anything the Bomb Warrior is doing in the mid game, in the form of the Mark Shots, Kill Commands, Spring Paws, Timberwolves. Any development from SilverName will be pretty swiftly dealt with, and so I think for BoarControl, he can afford to play a pretty slow game here, even when SilverName gets what is here a pretty impressive tempo hand.
It's a very good start for SilverName. I mean, when you're talking about Bomb Warrior in a matchup where I don't think it has an opportunity to play the super long game.
Yeah.
This is the kind of hand you're going to want. You're going to want Wrench Calibers, you're going to want Dynamatics, you're going to want Ziliax, and start pressuring the opponent.
Absolutely, because these are the cards that you're looking for. It's not the big removal cards, I think. It's much more the mid-game small removal cards that also develop a bit of tempo.
Marked shot and a marked shot.
Whew.
Infinite marked shots.
Infinite value, dare I say. I mean, we kind of joke, but that is another mark shot that will be cast by that Zul'jin in hand. That's huge.
It's a very big deal. And honestly, I think with the way that Boar's hand is shaping up, he actually might not even be on a Master's Call plan this game. You know, the fact that he's got marked shot, that he's got deadly shot. This is one of those situations I feel like where if you can just remove enough stuff in a row, Zul'jin on its own can be enough to bring it back without having to thin your deck at all.
Oh, okay. So you just think he'll be on the 0 draw plan to just...
It's possible. I think it's going to require, you know, seeing the next few cards from BoarControl to really decide. But if he just picks up some solid cards, you know, that may not be a necessity to this game.
I think that's very fair. I think he'd have to get a pretty spectacular series of draws to lock out the possibility of playing Masters for this game. But it's definitely something that he'll be considering. Wow.
The beast.
That's huge.
That is the juice.
Curves perfectly into Zul'jin and just into playing it next turn.
And so the other thing to consider for BoarControl is how you actually get your board full. It's kind of weird that I'm going to make this comparison, but this type of Hunter deck is a lot like a Warrior deck, where your macro game plan is paramount to how it interacts with your super powerful endgame. If Boar has too many cards in hand, the Zul'jin means that he won't necessarily be getting Unleash the Beast back. If he has too many Unleash the Hounds or, you know, nonsense mixed up inside of the Zul'jin pool, he might not have the space to summon an Unleash the Beast, which is kind of a disaster in that situation. So I think you just got a lot to think about this game.
Absolutely. It's a very complicated deck, and you have to use the resources that you're given very carefully. Otherwise, you can just shred through your whole deck without getting much value. Like we said, if your Zul'jin casts Tracking 2 times, that's 6 cards that are just gone from your deck.
And now SilverName, with both of the Goblins getting picked off early, to marked shots no less. The makings of a tough start are here.
I mean, he's still got plenty that he can do in these early turns. We could see an early Omega Assembly, although I imagine he's going to want to save that to go for a little bit of extra value, especially given that he doesn't have the Dr. Boom in hand at the moment. So something like Wrench Caliber Eternium Rover just seems pretty fine on this turn.
No weapon removal in the list here from BoarControl, so it is free to just set Wrench Caliber.
You've got to think about what your opponent is likely to do on turn 6, which, even ignoring the fact that BoarControl got the Unleash the Beast off of the Mark Shot, they're probably going to play that on turn 6. That's the most likely play.
Yeah, quite likely to have it, as it's going to be one of the prime keeps, I think, in the matchup as well.
In which case, Ziliax actually becomes a pretty decent option because it trades evenly with one of them, even though you're not getting the full amount of healing. I still think this is slightly better because I think you're looking to magnetize Ziliax as much as possible in this matchup. But it was worth thinking about, just that you want to make your opponent's predictable play as bad as possible.
Yeah, you get put in a pretty tough spot here on BoarControl's side, where Dynamatic is counterplay. You're looking at the Wrench Caliber being set, you know, so Ziliax starting to become counterplay. Even if you just manage to stick 2 things and run into a Super Collider, he knows that SilverName's going to have that in the main deck.
Which is where, yeah, well, this is where things get really interesting, because when we talk about value, we need to be specific about what we mean, because obviously if you were just shuffling cards into your deck forever and adding a whole bunch of nonsense to your hand, that is value, but it doesn't help you execute a game plan that actually wins. Like Kalento was saying in his interview, he doesn't like Hexlord Malakras because it's very high value, but it's too slow. The warrior will build up their own board, and that's what BoarControl needs to be afraid of. He can just play all these cards turn after turn, but if he's not actually developing onto the board and getting that chip damage in, he will eventually just lose board and may not be able to get it back.
Interesting here to me. SilverName chooses to go with the Magnetized Ziliax rather than the Dynomatic, and that means that there is a 1 point of damage to kill on the second Unleash the Beast if that's what BoarControl goes for.
Yeah.
Now, I think that BoarControl needs to be considering Deadly Shot or Kill Command in this scenario, because I think ideally with Unleash the Beast you attack a low
I agree.
attack target rather than a high attack one.
Yeah, I mean, it plays into what I was saying, right? You want to use your removal cards to clear off the board and then use your minion cards to actually get that pressure on board.
A lot to be said about the fact that you just present a target for your opponent to kill where they don't have necessarily an efficient answer. You know, whacking this and taking 5, not exactly the most comfortable.
Yeah. It's tough because you don't want to give your opponent an empty board to just develop Dr. Boom on turn 7. That's pretty sad. So getting something on the board here is obviously helpful, just because you know it's going to connect.
I think that's
play
a
Boom.
thought as well, actually.
Yeah.
It's trying to play a disruption effect against that. Or if it's not a disruption effect, you cost your opponent something.
Yeah, even then, he's got the weapon swing to go in here. I think considering BoarControl's hand is just so light on big minions, I wouldn't have hated the kill command on that last turn, I have to say.
Kind of low on big minions in the deck, though.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. Until he switches over to his, what is it, secondary deck with 2 Tundra Rhinos, 2 Savannah Highmanes, and an extra Stranglethorn Tiger.
Yeah, I mean, Dire Frenzy really is your, all intents and purposes, your big minion,
Right.
quote-unquote, in the deck.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, SilverName, tough spot.
He's not happy. I mean, you don't want to use a Dynamatic just for this, because it's one of your strongest pieces of removal.
Indeed. You know, you think about how Dynamatic lines up against a single copy of Unleash the Beast. It'll kill that 5/5 straight away. Right. So now in this spot, if Unleash... Whoa, you got Unleash the Beast from the Shimmerfly!
That's insane! So he's now got Mark Shot into Unleash the Beast, Shimmerfly into Unleash the Beast.
He has yet to draw his own actual Unleash the Beast.
You would have thought at this point, the Beast has been unleashed. And yet,
It's been unleashed.
turn after turn.
And so this situation right here, you know, this is what I was talking about for BoarControl is, you know, hand size, expenditure, what you actually do. Like, yep, Spring Paw I think is best. He's got to start considering hand size.
Yeah, I was looking at just going for the Vicious Scale Hide on that turn.
Ooh, I think you want to save that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is you want to save it for the Dire Frenzy, because even though it's... Against Warrior, like, he has a Stranglethorn Tiger in his primary deck, which is very tempting to go for on the Dire Frenzy. But I think the fact that it's Bomb Warrior rather than Control Warrior means that health is actually just very crucial.
I agree. That's just good macro planning. And honestly, every time I've watched Boar Stream, I've watched a lot of Boar Stream lately. I've just learned so much about these weird mid-range games of Hearthstone. I always feel like the mid-rangey battles were one of the weakest parts of my game. I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on combo decks, pretty good grasp on control decks, on aggro decks, but the mid-range battles were always tough for me. And watching a player like BoarControl, he just continuously, time and again, shows mastery of this style.
I absolutely agree. Throughout the entire tour stop system last year, BoarControl, he had a very signature strategy, which was he just brought the 4 decks that had the best win rates, just the best decks, and they were usually tended to be mid-range aggressive decks, or leaning on that side, and he just played them fantastically, time after time after time. He really has this style down to an absolute mastery.
It helps to get 2 free copies of Unleash the Beast, but that's why you play Mark Shots. Oh my. And so
he's got no hand space. What does he do with all this value?
That's the thing, is SilverName, you know, that his deck is kind of naturally countering this game plan by happenstance, more so than by purposeful play.
Yeah.
So BoarControl is finding himself in a spot where, you know, you can't use Unleash the Hounds unless your opponent has minions in play. It's like Brawl. You can't expend a Brawl unless there's multiple minions.
Yeah.
You might wonder why you want to do that. The answer is hand size and longevity.
And that's what I wanted to talk about. This is where things get really interesting, because it's not only the fact that he can't play Unleash the Hounds, he can play Tracking, he can play Kill Command. He doesn't really want to. He wants to clear out his hand space without playing any of these other spells so that he can just get as many Wyverns on board from Unleash the Beast once he plays Zul'jin, and also back in his hand. This is a really difficult spot for him, where he doesn't want to dilute the board space for when he plays Zul'jin.
Dire Frenzy, the best card in BoarControl's deck right now.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Needs Dire Frenzy to fight against not only the impending disaster of bombs showing up, but also to, just have restoration on your life total in general. Yeah, free up hand space, start making use of that Vicious Scalehide. It's taking up a spot until then. Because
while we're going on about the value that BoarControl has here, which is, very noteworthy, that he is dominating the board, he's not running out of any stuff to do. After he goes Zul'jin and the board is cleared by a Brawl or 5 Warpaths played on the same turn, whatever it may be, from thereafter, he may struggle to redevelop a board unless he finds that Dire Frenzy.
Yep, and again, we want to apologize for the tech issues we are experiencing, but you can notice that we have that handy-dandy little paused feature that's in place for this, which I believe is coming soon. So thankfully, the game is still in place, as well as it should remain in place. What now? And here we are again.
Oh, thankfully, gone are the days of a rematch after a 1-second disruption. Dark times.
SilverName really struggling to find an appropriate play here, and I don't blame him for this. This is like, you're getting into a weird. There's a lot of Unleash the Beasts you're fighting through.
So far as he knows, he doesn't know that there's another one in hand now, right? Because
he knows there's 2 more in deck.
He knows there's 2 more in deck, exactly, and he needs to be afraid of something. And the Super Collider is very good against the Wyverns that will come off of Zul'jin or a later Unleash the Beast.
You got to get to that point first.
Yeah.
That is a lot of respect for a Spring Paw. I don't know about that one.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one either. I mean, he has effectively 5 charges of a weapon swing in hand with the Wrench Caliber and Weapons Project. But even so, that is a Super Collider into a 1/1. That is the single worst use it could possibly be.
All right, we found ourselves in the tough spot. BoarControl yet to find a Dire Frenzy. And remember, I asked you earlier about tracking for the key card. If you find yourself with Zul'jin and with tracking, 15 is still a good deal of life to work with, but Boar knows that could all go away.
It really is just hand space. That's the only thing he needs to worry about. Like, if he had unlimited hand space, you could just go for the Unleash the Beast mark shot on this turn. You keep filling up your stuff. You set up for a Zul'jin that summons, what would that be? 6 of the Wyverns on board and adds 3 to your hand. That's absurd.
Yeah, it's mostly the fact that Zul'jin is going to put the twin spell, the secondary twin spell effect from Unleash the Beast back in your hand.
Yeah.
You expect your first wave to often get wiped out.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is if SilverName can actually generate tempo on Boar, that can be a major problem. 15 life I don't think is comfortable for Boar right now.
That's fair. And until he finds the Dire Frenzy, he doesn't have much healing. However, I think it's so difficult for SilverName to get any minion to connect face here. Like, because as soon as BoarControl gets scared, he can just hit the panic switch of Zul'jin if he needs to. But even before then, as we can see here, he could just go for Unleash the Beast mark shot on this turn to completely clear the board. It's just those bombs that he's afraid of.
There's 3 in deck now, and you saw the, no, just please come on, not this time.
Kalento always happened to be at the 16 health point. BoarControl, however, what a noob.
Yeah. You big dummy.
Is he going to swing face with the weapon?
I think that'd be a bit much.
What an alpha play, though. Like, assert dominance over your opponent by hitting them with a toy hammer.
SilverName to Gold Chad. Just hit him with the Super Collider. It's what I want. I want it now.
mean, again, the play he wants to make on this turn is Unleash the Beast into Mark's shot.
I think you go with Mark shot here first.
Okay, or the other way around.
Gives you a Dire Frenzy opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
And
I agree.
If you miss the Dire Frenzy opportunity, figure it out from there. Because if you land Dire Frenzy on a Vicious Scalehide, you go from feeling like the game could end in disaster to being super comfortable.
Yeah, you just have as much health as you could possibly need, basically.
I think creating board tension here is the worst thing.
Oh, as in not removing the minions.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. You definitely want to clear stuff off here.
Ooh.
So this does protect his face because it was a misdirection, I believe, was one of the secrets that was played, which would obviously redirect the Clockwork Goblin once it connects specifically to the face. And the other one being the Rat Trap. So if 3 cards are played here for SilverName, which is more than possible on this turn, he would be summoning a 6/6 for his opponent as well.
It activates the Super Collider, though.
Oh yeah, good point.
Whoa.
Which he just swung face with straight away.
Always fakes me out.
That's interesting because you know that one of them is Rat Trap. You're 100% certain it's the only secret that is naturally played in the deck, and it was drawn from the deck.
This is the push from SilverName.
Okay.
It is.
Doesn't want to go for the activating the Rat Trap and clearing off. He's just saying, I'm never going to activate it.
I actually think this is wise from SilverName here.
Because things are starting to get a little bit scary for
Yeah.
Board Control. I didn't think we'd end up in this position given how much rush and value he was getting turn after turn.
It's just chip damage.
But somehow he's at 12. How did this happen? It's bomb warrior, I guess. It's the bombs. So obviously multiple ways to completely clear the board here.
Oh boy.
He's not happy about that. That is something he was forced into doing.
Well, I'm curious to see this Discover window because Boar's reaction to the Discover tells me that this was not good.
To be fair, it's Board Control. He never looks happy.
Yeah, he is British.
He's very British as well. But yeah. Animal Companion. I mean, basically it wasn't Dire Frenzy, right? That's what he was looking for here, and
Also,
he didn't get it.
If bombs got lost in that, don't know about it.
Goblin Prank on the Vicious Scalehide is interesting just for a one-time surprise heal, should he need that.
Whoa. All right. Well, that's the plan for Board then.
Still another one in the deck, obviously, for later on in the game to go with the Dire Frenzy.
I mean, we needed the Dire Friend. Oh, boy. Huge draw for SilverName.
So big. Look at it on this turn. He could completely clear the board if he wanted to. Oh no, he doesn't want to activate the Rat Trap as well. Okay, so you got to think about this because that does make it a little bit more awkward. But at the same time, how do they survive against all those bombs?
Ah, Yazul'jin. You run into the bombs one at a time and hope that the beasts are surviving everything.
Yeah.
SilverName is going to trade off here and then go, whoa, he's not going to Blastmaster.
Wow.
Oh, he wants to just stop the Dire Frenzy as much as possible. He could have stopped it with the weapon, though. Could he not have?
In order to do that, he would have activated Rat Trap on this turn because he would have to have gone Coin Militia Commander.
I don't know about that one. I'm going to give that a C-.
Because it's not like there's no bombs in the deck, right? Because with the swing as well, there'd be at least 2, right? There's a bunch of bombs in the deck. Or I guess some of them have been drawn over the time, but there's been a lot of Clockwork Goblins played as well. I don't know. I feel like maybe that was the time to just seize initiative on the board.
I definitely agree. I don't think it's going to actually matter.
Yeah, he's still going to work out well from here, and it doesn't activate the Rat Trap, so maybe this was his master plan all along.
I feel like if you just let it rip, what does Board do?
I agree.
But
are you
if you don't let it rip, what does Board do?
Are you afraid of Unleash the Hounds? Is that what he's thinking? Could he ever die to Unleash double Timberwolf or something
so
like that?
Unleash trade into Unleash Timber? No, no way. It's only 15 damage.
Yeah. Yeah, you never die there. It's conservative, and it wouldn't always have worked out, I don't believe. But however, here, I think it's going to work out very nicely for Silver. The boom is so important in this matchup.
Good luck to you, Boar.
Yep, the old sucking on a lemon face. Says it all for BoarControl there. As he's
And
just
that'll
dead.
do it. 2 bombs in a row. BoarControl never finds a way to stabilize life total, and despite Unleash the Beast after Unleash the Beast after Unleash the Beast, that's Bomb Warrior for you.
How did that turn around so fast? He was in such a good spot.
Everything got checked. He never found Dire Frenzy for Vicious Scale Hide to restore health, and every single threat he developed got checked.
I'm honestly quite stunned by that. Because is that then, does it become the point where that was a misstep by BoarControl in his overall macro game plan, where he should have been playing Zul'jin early? Like, we could have just seen a tempo Zul'jin a couple turns early, which obviously is so far from how you want to use the card in the matchup, with no Dire Frenzies being played, not even being able to add the extra Unleash the Beasts back to your hand. But if he didn't do it, and so he just died.
That's kind of where my curiosity is in the mid game with not deadly shotting, using every Unleash the Beast to actually attack a minion.
Right.
I feel like keeping them healthy. You know, I talked about this in the match versus Boston with
Right.
Galento. The back end of the minion size is a very important facet against Warrior, and I think that weakening all of his Wyverns hurt him.
I think so too. The Unleash the Beast would always be good. The removal spells are only good to remove the minions. So I think it might have been perhaps a slight misallocation of resources there in the mid game.
Perhaps, or maybe just Dire Frenzy didn't show up. That's also a big portion of my vote. We got to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to find out if BoarControl can tie the series up, or if SilverName's going to take it 2-0 like the trend has been. Don't go anywhere.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mucked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist. And each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No thing bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hit it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Galaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Well met, friend. Ooh. Let's get this over with. amazing game! Oh, well played!
Here's to the winner.
We're back with Hearthstone Grandmasters here, the European region. It's game number 2 between BoarControl and SilverName. SilverName up a game in this one, and it seems like what we've been seeing so far is a lot of 2-0s taking place. And here, it might be a little bit more difficult for SilverName to get that. Taking a look at their secondary decks, which they've opted to go with here. SilverName's going to omit Baleful Banker, a Super Collider, a Lysiana, Eternium Rover, and a Militia Commander. He adds in 2 Augmented Elix, a Darius Crowley, second Shield Block, and Weapons Project. For BoarControl, we've lost a Tracking. We lose 2 Deadly Shots. We lose 2 Unleash the Hounds. Good. Those were clogging up the hand.
Yep.
We added a Stranglethorn Tiger, 2 Tundra Rhinos, and 2 Savannah Highmanes.
That is just pure big chunky boys that he's putting in the deck, which is exactly what you want against Warrior. You just want threat after threat after threat just to be able to make sure you're constantly developing onto the board. And I feel like in the switch to the secondary deck for both of these players, BoarControl ends up being more favorable than he was in the first game of this series. Because for SilverName, it's not specifically teched to beat Hunter, I don't think. You're just going for a general, more tempo game plan with the Elix in there and Darius Crowley. But I mean, hey, we saw in the previous game, tempo worked pretty well for him.
Indeed it did. You know, that was really how BoarControl suffered, was he just got chipped away. And this game, it's a very different story. As you see the facial expression there.
And he just mouths, got it.
Yeah, which confirms to me it was not necessarily a misappropriation of resources. I think he could have gotten more time in the previous game. However, that Dire Frenzy missing was the key part of the puzzle for BoarControl in the previous game. And now that he's got it, I think he's pretty darned comfortable.
I mean, yeah, that's how you play Hearthstone in the top level, right? Even if different plays wouldn't have won you the game, some of the time they would have made you more likely to win, which is, you've got to maximize your chances, which I think maybe BoarControl didn't do last game. But either way, this hand is looking a lot more like it to take the series.
Goes for a pair of Spring Paws here, as Misha will contest by just being a sizable body. Huffer will contest by charging in, and Leok will contest by use of the 1/1s.
Wow. Forward planning, one might say.
Why would you do that?
Don't know. Something to say. Just making conversation.
Just no matter what animal companion you get, the perfect one?
Yeah.
What kind of random is that? So,
what if
summon a random animal companion, it's just like, sleeping dog. You're like, what? You're like, what is that?
Yeah. No one's got it before. Weird,
Just a 2/3.
Can't attack.
You go hover over the mana cost and just 3 mana 2/3, and you're like, what?
Why is this dog sleeping?
It's not even it just doesn't attack.
It could.
It could,
but it won't.
Just doesn't. It's a good boy.
We're done.
Amen, brother. Straightforward for SilverName on how to contest. However, he is now, I would say, quite vulnerable to BoarControl starting to set the pace of this game. Bombs drawn early, that's what BoarControl would like to see.
Good. Yep, that's very, very good. As we see there, SilverName throwing up his hand. The Blastmaster Boom, you just want as many bombs in your opponent's deck as possible to get as many boom bots summoned when you play him, as we saw the nail in the coffin last game.
Misha's back.
Oh, and with the Master's Call as well, just means he can keep churning out these rushing, life-stealing minions. No matter how many bombs end up exploding here, BoarControl is just sitting at 30.
It's going to have to be about 6 at once. Perhaps a few less if SilverName can, you know, rustle BoarControl here, but...
Yeah. I don't think he's rustling anything this game, other than BoarControl's jimmies.
Dire Frenzy on the Vicious all day, every day. Now is the time.
I agree.
Savannah Highmaid.
You don't have to do it now, but you always do it on the scale idea. I think BoarControl has learned his lesson last game. That's exactly what you want.
Is this a nod specifically to Dynamatic?
It's good against Super Collider because it's a single minion. Good against Dynamatic. Good against Brawl. Good against Warpath. good minion against warrior, which is arguably why he put 2 of them in his deck.
Oh, interesting.
Unlike the floating head from the new from the new adventure, single-player adventure.
This just gives you advice.
Yeah. Put 2 of these in your deck to beat warrior.
Have you tried taking extra turns? I've had so much fun with the new adventure stuff.
Yeah, it's a good one.
SilverName just kind of desperately scraping here for something. Uh-oh.
That's great for BoarControl, but at the moment,
Yeah, I mean, uh-oh for SilverName.
Yeah. Blastmaster Boom is a war golem at this point.
There's one more bomb left? 2 from Wrench Caliber and 1 from Clockwork.
Oh, he's played the Clockwork as well. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So it's just classic Dr. Boom, if you will.
It's a classic.
As BoarControl here, still with plenty of options to go for.
Look, all I'm saying is this is what we were missing last game was the Dire Frenzy Vicious Scalehide.
Yeah.
Like, I'm certain it's a bias in my head, but I'm like, I just lost to not having this. I'm going to do it immediately. The thought here for Boar is he doesn't want to put extra stuff into his deck to
Right.
water down Zul'jin
Right, yeah,
draw.
that's what I was going to bring up. Which is definitely going to be leading him towards going for the Unleash the Beast first. How does that play around Warpath? He's a 7 mana, so even if you trade in, still can't kill off with the Warpath unless he swings in as well. So you're making him take the 5 here, even if he wants to go for a Warpath turn. So I think trading with the Wyvern there was pretty good.
Play it.
You just play it?
Yep.
Oh, imagine if the bombs hadn't been drawn. That would have been insane for SilverName. But still, he had his luck with Blastmaster Boom in the previous game. It didn't even need to play it. It just blew up his opponent with bombs in the deck.
What now?
It just actually did nothing in that game.
Literally did nothing.
It was just flashy. You know, it's awfully tempting to get Darius in there farming stuff. I'm okay with the Harrison as well. I think Harrison's a totally fine play in this spot. I just feel like with the way that the game has gone for SilverName, you're going to absolutely need something desperate to happen. And both of those to me say Harrison Jones to find the right cards or Blastmaster Boom and have the boom bots do some work.
Right. Because, I mean, we're kind of like, oh god, he has to play this Dr. Boom here. It's still just Dr. Boom, one of the best cards printed in Hearthstone ever. But with the, if he can just find himself 1 Clockwork Goblin here with the Augmented Elec in hand, he can really juice up that Blastmaster.
Also, that's, oh, did find Celiax though.
I think he's already played.
Did he play Celiax?
Maybe not.
That was last game for sure. Oh gosh, that's a whole new caster meta I forgot about. Did they play it this game or the previous one?
Yeah, this is okay for BoarControl. The way he played this did mean that he was vulnerable to Warpath. Was there any way he could have sequenced it?
He would sacrifice 5 damage to do it.
So that he traded in differently, yeah. Which is obviously pretty bad.
Ooh. Very nice draw for SilverName here.
Yes, very important.
And that is partially thanks to the fact that he went for Harrison Jones on the previous turn to dig into the deck and try to find something. So now gets to clear with Warpath. Will face down a big threat on the following turn. Has Militia Commander or the Dr. Boom if you'd like.
He got Dire Frenzy off of the Shimmerflight. These Shimmerflights have been absurd for BoarControl. I mean, I guess at this point Dire Frenzy isn't even actually that good because he's already got them shuffled into his deck.
Well, it's still pretty good.
It's up there. In terms of the Hunter's spells, there's some real stinkers in there, everyone.
Like Misdirection.
Rotter.
Yeah, nice turn here for SilverName as well.
Quickest turn he's played so far, I think.
Darius is very patient and now farming away.
The way Darius has his hands in the picture will never not be funny to me. Just, hey.
It's out to the side.
Yeah. Come on, boys.
Is that the 4/6 scale height or the 1/3?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It is likely to be the big, juicy scale hide. which would trade evenly with the Darius.
Yeah, I was
Which
thinking.
you don't want to do, obviously.
I was thinking here of like how to get tempo in this spot, and it requires you to use another Dire Frenzy.
Well, I mean, you can just go Timberwolf double Springfall, right? Is pretty good here.
I feel like the Timberwolves, when you have Tundra Rhinos in the deck, are extremely key to hang on to.
Interesting.
Because that's like your deliverable lethal, is like just Tundra Rhino and then Timberwolves.
I think the deck has so much value in it that you don't actually need to bother with that. You just need to stay alive.
Okay.
And I think I fully agree with you in the previous metas mid-range Hunter. That was how you did it. You
Gotcha.
played a whole bunch of charge minions because you also had Crackling Razormaw in there, which was a huge damage buff.
Ah, yeah.
Whereas now the actual amount of damage you can charge in with Rhino, I think is a little bit lower, and so you're better focused on just making sure you don't take any damage and just win through value.
SilverName is playing this turns quick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this, I feel, was,
The button.
yeah, fairly easy to navigate this turn. There's not too much threat on the board. You want to start getting the value with Boom, as he gets a pretty nice couple of hero powers there.
Indeed. I think, you know, the 1/1s would have been okay as well, but 7 armor
Happy with
more
that,
than
yeah.
fends off the current board state.
Yeah. And just getting that extra value is so important.
Okay, well, I know for a fact now that one of those is a 4/6.
Excellent deduction, Sherlock.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. So Boar's just got to find a way to build out the extra damage in the meantime.
Wait, what was the count of 10 damage, sorry?
Tundra Rhino and second Timberwolf.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean, well, at the moment, I imagine he's probably saving up to go for Rhino, double 4-attack Scale Hide, and the Timberwolf as well. Is a huge amount of burst he could pull off in one turn.
Yeah, excuse me, it's also 11 damage. Just in the immediacy.
Right.
Kind of interesting turn here. I imagine BoarControl is very interested in not only chipping away with hero powers, but also just being mana efficient in general. And that's a conflicting game plan right now.
Yeah. I feel like he's, in a way, haunted by the ghosts of the previous game, where he wasn't willing enough to just throw his stuff onto the board, to just play out his cards. And so therefore, playing the Wyvern here, it's not the quickest play. It's only a 6-mana 5/5, since the rush doesn't matter. And so, you know, the Rhino would have had stealth. He could have played at the Vicious Scale Hides. He could have played another Dire Frenzy. He could have been quicker here. But I think, again, given how greedy his secondary deck is, as opposed to his primary, allows him to play in this way.
Major turn for SilverName coming up here, too. We're looking at full board wipe and then some.
Yeah. It's interesting choices. I mean, Dynamatic is pretty much always just the choice. But Hecklebot could be interesting to try and snipe out one of your opponent's choice minions.
I've always been a big fan of the Scrap Hound.
As
when
a
I find-
concept, or
Well,
you think it's good?
And I think it's often very reasonable because of the ability to magnetize. Like just finding like now like a random war gear or finding like a Beryllium Nullifier
I agree.
or forbid a Ziliax.
Right, and you know, if he had one of those powerful magnetic cards in hand, I honestly would not be surprised to see him go for the Scrap Pound. However, without that insurance that he would find that, I think Dynamatic is just a guaranteed clear on most of what, pretty much anything your opponent can deliver next turn.
More armor showing up.
There's
Which means
Blast.
BoarControl has more work to do.
Blastmaster Boom now, I believe, just has no boombots attached to it whatsoever.
It's a third bomb draw, yeah. With Elegant Hand, though, that quickly changes.
Yes.
The thing for me is SilverName's next turn, where I think that's why he ended up taking the Dynamatic here, is if you can't forego the hero power because it's so powerful, it's tough to play Boom Reaver. So you have to wait until your hero power is negligible.
Yep.
Which doesn't always come up.
Yep. Usually the only one you're really happy to skip over is Kaboom, 1 damage to everything. Or 1 damage to all enemies, sorry. But yeah, he will want to find a time to play that, because even though the minions he will summon from his deck are, for the most part, fairly small, it's something just to get a little bit of extra damage through. As BoarControl is kind of stuck in the eternal Dr. Boom hell, where your mission is just to stick 1 minion on board for a turn, which is, it turns out, a very, very tall order.
Good luck.
against Dr. Boom, yeah. However, not as hard as it could be against some other builds of Bomb Warrior. There are no Omega Devastators in any of the lists for SilverName, which definitely helps.
Oh, there's none in any of the stacks.
Yeah.
So I actually, now that I'm seeing that, I'm a bit concerned with SilverName's ability to just outright play the long game. Because Elysiana
I
and
agree.
Banker
I
are
agree.
out of the deck, obviously.
I think the primary game plan in this matchup is to just slam Blastmaster Boom on turn 7 for as early as possible, get the full board out, and then win from there. Because the Hunter doesn't really have an answer to that.
His Boom would have just tried to play the recovery slot was all, though. So he
Right.
couldn't have played it if that's the
Right, yeah. Whereas if BoarControl hadn't drawn those bombs and he could have got a full board of Boombots there, I think he was very far ahead. Or at least very much in the game. Whereas at the moment, BoarControl is still so much on the front foot in terms of value. He's got 3 Dire Frenzies, all of which could be recast by Zul'jin later on.
Wow.
I think I agree. It's, you know, we need to get things back into perspective. That's a 2-mana 4/6 lifesteal rush.
Yeah.
You don't pass up cards like that.
And now we're about to add some beefy Tundra Rhinos to the mix.
Beefy Rhinos.
That is scary if you're SilverName.
Quickly.
I think Boar should be pressing the issue here as well, although there is a lot to be said about losing the board here.
There's a lot to be said about magnetizing random mechs on, right? There's still one
Exactly.
mystery mech in hand, and also the hero power.
Mystery mechs.
Mystery mech. It sounds like one of the worst Doctor Who villains of all time. It is I, Mystery Mech.
Your superpower is that you can only attack if you cast a spell this turn.
Wait a second. Oof. I mean,
Yeah.
like Eternium Robe is the best card in a vacuum out of all of these, but do you want just something more expensive? Like the Spring Rocket's immediate removal, which could be pretty important in this game.
Spring Rocket, I think, services the purpose this turn, which is just a Dynomatic and then Spring Rocket.
Yeah.
Clear off the Rhino.
I like that.
Punch face.
Shadow Ball.
And there's the Kaboom for the Boom Reaver next turn.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Which we know is the big one.
It
So
could...
the other one is discarded off the tracking.
Ah, correct.
And so now, I mean, how much damage are we actually looking at? The Rhino is 5 attack. The 2 Vicious Scale Highs are 4 attack each, which is 13. The
17.
yes, 17 damage I make it.
So is Timberwolf the next Dire Frenzy?
Possibly, unless you want to set up a preemptive Stranglethorn Tiger. Like if we were to see Tiger Dire Frenzy on this turn, which guarantees you 9 damage to the face in addition to that, which would pump it up to 26 damage.
That's exact lethal.
That's exact lethal over the next couple of turns.
It's actually 27 damage, I think. We forgot to add one to the Stranglethorn.
No, we added one to die with, I think. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Dire Frenzy's +3. Oh.
I think that would have set up exactly the... Again, my maths could be slightly off. 17. I'm pretty sure it was, though. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it's exactly
no, it
26.
was.
And what could have gone wrong there?
Weapons Project.
Brawl? Yeah, I guess. Any armor gain, yeah. But, like, if your Stranglethorn Tiger stays on the board, even if you don't get lethal,
It dealt
great.
8.
Exactly.
And you have
just smack
3
your
more
opponent.
Stranglethorn Tigers. It's interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways for this to play out, where BoarControl has now also enabled the fact that there's 2 more Tundra Rhinos in the deck. So 20% of the time he draws a Tundra Rhino that is pretty close to representing lethal.
Yep. And also, he does want to find that Zul'jin before too long, because he's still perfectly happy playing out these beasts for the moment, but, you know, he doesn't want to dilute his deck from the big boy himself.
Not too many big hits left in the deck for this Boom Reaver. That's about the biggest one.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Harrison Jones was used this game.
Yes, it was.
So
Draw.
3-4 is
Oh, I love that fuse.
3-4 Ziliax, Clockwork Goblin. They're all about the same size.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can clear the board here, but it is not a happy way to do so. But yet again, BoarControl has tried to develop the board. SilverName has removed every single minion again. Boom is insane, man.
Just getting wacky. One health outside of that marked shot, just being juice.
SilverName, when he played his Town Crier on 1, was thinking, can't wait for when my Boom Reaver goes to 5 health against my opponent's mark shot on turn 18.
Just like Kalento earlier.
All pre-planned.
A lot of extra armor here drawn for SilverName, but 8-8 Tiger is scary.
And how do we counteract that as SilverName? Brawl is obviously the Hail Mary you can go for. I mean, you can actually make it 3 mechs and an augmented Elec and then Brawl to not guarantee, but make it very unlikely that the Tiger survives. Or he could just go for a 50-50. That seems insane. You always hero power first. You always hero power first.
I think you just shield block and take your time here. He's just 50-50ing it! And look at Boar's reaction! The Tiger loses!
That's unbelievable! How do you not hero power first there?
When you just gotta have an extra 1-1.
Well, when you've got to have a 7-5,
That's
right?
the thing, is the 50-50 results in the 7-5 living instead of a 1-1 living.
Right.
Like, I think SilverName realizes he has to win this game, like, pretty fast. Like, the inevitability is not nearly on his side. And so he decides that taking a risk is the superior option there. I don't really blame him for that either.
I guess he is that far behind, actually. This was a...
He's losing pretty bad.
Yeah. This was just damage control, seeing that, you know, I'm never winning this game. I have to get these things to go my way, and they are. That would have just been game over on the spot, pretty much, if he does that. But he's taken risks.
Even just this spot's bad. The Elecs are there. Shield Slam's there. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking it's Blastmaster Boom time.
As a 7-7.
I mean, if you were that desperate for a 7-5, are we not this desperate for a 7-7?
I agree. Yeah,
Just floated 4 mana.
I don't know if I do agree, actually. I think he is hoping that he has enough time to activate it, because the 7-7 on its own is really his last threat.
Okay, Master's Call also pretty insane.
That's absurd. Turbos through his whole deck. He will get almost guaranteed a juiced up Vicious Scalehide, a juiced up Rhino, and a juiced up Tiger.
Oh, he drew a non-juiced Tiger. I was wondering why it was taking so long.
Oh,
here.
right, okay.
He drew one of the, he
'cause
drew
he's
the
got
other
two-
5-5.
got
Yeah.
two in his deck. Right.
Wrench Caliber found.
There it is. That's the shuffle he needs.
That's a big deal, too, because if I recall correctly, there's only one Vicious Scalehide left.
I think you're correct. I believe you're correct.
That's 2 more bombs in the deck.
Job done.
And up to 25.
And that's not a bomb, which means there will be, I believe, guaranteed ability to get a full Blastmaster Boom board next turn.
Yeah, that might not be enough, though.
But it might be. I mean, he could even brawl first, actually, if he just wants to deal with his opponent's board and then follow up afterwards with the pressure.
That 8-8 is awfully scary right now.
Yeah.
You got to handle the board in some capacity.
I mean, obviously they all have rush, so you can likely end up, well, you can definitely clear at least the Scale Hide and the Wyvern.
Oh, that's a good
sometimes get the clear on the 8/8 as well. But even if they all go face, like, the bombs, you just hope finish him off at that point from his deck rather than the boom bots that you're rushing through as well.
So that actually is an interesting point. Is that an attack face and then Blastmaster boom then?
Well, you want the... I mean, you can hero power first, right? So you go hero power.
I mean, just the attack face is really the question. Esports.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. Well, you want to have the highest amount. So I guess, yeah, just being able to sacrifice them all in is probably more valuable, which I guess is another reason to not actually hero power first.
This is an interesting game.
This is a very interesting game.
So he wants maximum boom bottage.
Yeah.
Don't blame him for this one either.
This makes sense. Yeah, this does make sense. Because I was wondering, if he wants to be able to rush them in immediately, you obviously don't hero power first. But I don't think that's actually that important. I think he's very happy as long as he doesn't die here. To just blow this whole place sky high.
Uh-oh.
But now for BoarControl, we need to wonder, does he have lethal capabilities?
Uh-oh!
No.
But he's got to win the game.
Okay, so Tundra Rhino, Stranglethorn Tiger is 16 plus 5, 21 damage. That does not win.
He's at 3. This doesn't work.
He's actually just gonna die.
You can't win.
He could just lose on the spot here.
Wait a minute, is that enough? Unleash the Hounds makes 6.
It never gets there, right? Getting lucky with these bombs.
Oh. Wow, SilverName's bombs go face one way or the other and wipe out BoarControl. 6 boombots are dangerous.
How did Boar lose those games? He was in an
Let's look at the situation.
So far ahead.
Let's look at the situation with the Tiger setup.
Right.
Think about it. Where he went for the different style of Dire Frenzy play, where he could have set up the Tiger and then had the Tundra Rhino, double Vicious Scalehide, and Timberwolf on the following turn.
Right, which did set up exact lethal, assuming no armor was gained or the Rhino didn't die to a brawl.
But also, if your opponent gains armor in that situation, what that
still
means,
connects with the 8.
And they're also spending a card to do that. You have Rat Trap active, so if your opponent spends 2 more cards on top of that, you get the 6/6. So they get armor and then 1 effect.
The downside, however, yet again, of going for the Tiger plus Dire Frenzy play is it doesn't interact with your opponent's board immediately whatsoever. So then you're taking damage, which leads to the situations where BoarControl lost in the previous game, where he's just losing on tempo. He's just being killed by the bombs. Such a complicated game there. And it really did feel like, I don't know, BoarControl shouldn't have ended up losing that game. He was in such a dominant position with all the value and the healing he was accruing over the course of the game.
You also have to consider that turn where he used the Vicious Scalehide. That was an inefficient way to handle board because he was healing up to full life at that point. So the swing back on a Vicious Scalehide, less impactful there. It takes away some of your options later with Tundra Rhino and the Timberwolf that are happening in that same situation. I feel like that one single turn was the setup that changed the scope of the game. Right. And you said it earlier, we're getting, quite nitpicky on the players, but we're talking the elite of the elite are competing here in Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Yeah.
You have to get nitpicky.
That is what I want to say. BoarControl is probably my favorite Hearthstone player. I spend all day, every day watching him stream Hearthstone, and I hold him to an incredibly high esteem as a Hearthstone player. So I want to make sure he's playing at the absolute best, even though, to his credit, a lot went wrong for him in that game.
Indeed, but that's part of Hearthstone for you. We will not be having an interview with SilverName because I don't speak Russian, and neither does Darok. So we're going to be foregoing that one, but we still have 2 matches left here for the European region in Hearthstone Grandmasters. So stick around. Those are coming up.